which is by Laura Fryer. She's got a video here talking about, is Ubisoft saved?
Ubisoft has been struggling for several years. Their games have failed to
What? They've been struggling for several years? Say it ain't so.
be profitable, and their stock price has been circling the drain. For months, there have been rumors that they would spin out or sell the company, and it turns out those rumors were true. If you haven't heard, Ubisoft has created a subsidiary that will focus on Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six.
Why do you think the subsidiary picked those three in general? Because that's the only profitable ones that they could actually do, but Ubisoft couldn't pay for them. That's why they needed a $1.4, $1.3 billion influx of cash from Tencent.
Also, the Chinese tech giant Tencent has invested over $1 billion in the new entity.
With what has happened to Ubisoft valuations and share prices recently, it's hard to forget that once upon a time in 2018, Ubisoft was a 10 billion euro company.
Think about that. In 2018, which is just 7 years ago, they were $1 billion industry or $1 billion company.
And then 8 billion in 2018 and 4 billion in 2022.
That is the wrong way to go down a chart right there. That's a bad direction to go.
So there was a lot of key risks that led to that, and one of them was bad execution in launching games.
On the surface,
That's right. It wasn't just Assassin's Creed Shadows. It was Skull and Bones, X-Defiant. It was Avatar. It was Star Wars Outlaws. It was Assassin's Creed Shadows. And that's just the last 13 months.
this seems like good news. The company's getting more investment money, their stock price is going up. Ubisoft is saved, right? Well, I'm not so sure. I think it's a little more complicated. Of course, the executives will be getting a great big payout.
That's right, Laura. They will be getting a great big payout. But all the people that get fired are not the big guys.
But what about the game developers?
That's right.
What about the people in these studios that made the games? How will it work out for them?
It won't work out for them. She knows it, right? We know it. Everyone knows it, but no one wants to say it, right? Everyone's like, well, you got to pay $80, $90 for these games, you sexist, racist pig. You have to pay for these things, right? You got to support the devs. You've got to support the devs. What happens when you support the devs? When you buy the game or not buy the game? It doesn't matter. If they don't make the money that they need to make for the company, they get let go and fired. They already have let people go from a studio.
And how many of their leaders that drove this company off a cliff will still be at the helm of the new subsidiary?
That's right. The upper management is shit in all of these companies. We've talked about it in the past, right? The upper management in Bungie, terrible. The upper management in Rocksteady, terrible. In BioWare, terrible. Right? EA, terrible. Here's another one, Ubisoft. All of these companies, Bethesda, Arcane Studios, all of these companies had shit upper management. No one takes accountability, and who gets to lose their jobs? All the worker bees.
These franchises and teams will only be saved long term if they have better leadership. We'll likely never know exactly what happened, but there are 2 letters that leaked out of Ubisoft that we should take a look at. If you've never worked at a big company, the net of those letters is that a bunch of studios are likely saved, and sadly, many are not. And that means layoffs.
48 Gaming, the union doesn't always protect everybody either. Okay? Actually, unions can actually hurt as well, because if everyone has to unionize, well, that's going to raise prices as well, and that's going to hurt them. Or do they have to have a percentage of people that work? How many hours do you have to actually work to become unionized? Okay, which would then, if they want people to become unionized, then they would hire people and not unionize them because they only make a certain amount of hours, and they wouldn't qualify for that. So there's a lot more behind the scenes of what's going on. I would have to read exactly what they have done for the unions, but I was part of a union, okay? And when the union went on strike, you had to strike, okay? You can't be a scab, you can't do other things, you can't take other job, okay? So unions are great, and unions are also not great, all depending on what scenario you're in.
Yves, the CEO, wrote the first letter, and here is the part where he talks specifics regarding the game studios. He writes, "The terms of this partnership are straightforward. We will establish a dedicated subsidiary within Ubisoft
Look at this corporate speak. Look at this corporate speak.
that will bring together our 3 most powerful franchises, Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry. This subsidiary will gather the teams working on these brands primarily in the studios of Montreal, Quebec City, Sherbrooke, Saguenay, Barcelona, and Sofia. Tencent will be a 25% shareholder of this new subsidiary with the aim of boosting these franchises so they become
What's up, Paul? What's up, Hemi?
undisputed global icons. The good news is that the people in these studios are likely safe, at least in the short term. Additionally,
Yeah, safe for the short term. That's actually how they make products as well. They think about the short term. They don't think about the actual long term.
you'll notice he uses the word primarily. That means even if you're not in one of the
Not necessarily, Paul. Lots of companies don't give overtime for certain things. All depends on what type of job you have. So if you're salary based, sometimes companies make you work 60 hours before you get overtime.
These locations, there's still hope. In my opinion, what he's doing with this email is he's signaling to key performers, people that he knows are good but aren't necessarily in those studios, that they have a place in the future of the company. He's trying to retain key talent, and if he's smart, his management will go out immediately and start talking to each of those individuals, making sure that they understand that they have a
Yeah, if it's in the UK, it's by law, I believe. Sure, unless they move the company out of the UK.
place in the new organization. You see, what I found is that really good performers, people who are really good at their job, are often very humble. And so they don't think of themselves as being as excellent as they are. So even tiny, tiny changes in an organization can make them very nervous. This is really true of programmers in my experience. Some of the best ones just don't know how good they are. So if he's smart, he's out talking to these people and making sure that they're going to stick around for the future of the company.
There's people right now inside of Ubisoft that are leaving on their own accord. They're like, yep, ship is sinking, I'm out. Then there's other people going, well, I don't have that flexibility because maybe I'm new in the industry and I haven't made enough contacts, right? All I know is the people here, and maybe I didn't go outside the, right? Other people are looking for, hey, do you have an opening over there, right? This is where it's, hey, we're buddy-buddy, but it's also dog-eat-dog world, okay? Where if both you and I are working in the same company, I've been with the company for 5 years. I'm your friend in the company. You've been there 2 years. Okay. I've made connections because I've been in the business longer. Okay. And you haven't. And I'm like, I'm out of here. This ship's going down. I'm gonna get a job. You're cool. Every man for themselves. Okay. The person that's been there, he's like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And they're screwed. Okay. This happens in every business across the world.
Reading on, he says the following. The investment will also give us the means to accelerate the changes we've been discussing for several months across the group. Changes that many of you have been longing for, as revealed by the Ubisoft XP survey. These changes are in line with the initiatives that Maria Sofia has been sharing recently, which aim to put the creation of unique games and player satisfaction back at the heart of
That's a joke, by the way. That word, player satisfaction, that's like putting non-GMO on the package of food, organic, right? That's what this is right here. This is for the people to let you guys know that we're going back. We're going back to the roots, as Battlefield would say, EA would say. We got you in mind, players. We're going back to the roots. We're going back to the roots of player satisfaction. They ain't going back to this. This is what they tell you. So you go, oh well, they told me they're gonna make they're going back for us. They care. I'm still going to support
the heart of our daily work. This is what will enable us to return to a higher level of profitability. I was pretty surprised that he put this in an email. I think what...
Did you see what her face just did? Hold on a second. I love reading people's facial expressions. Okay, this is nothing on Laura. Just because she read the thing, and then this is her thoughts. Look at her face real fast when she makes the...
ability. I was pretty surprised that he put this in an email.
Right there. Did you see it? That right there. That's not a face of... I'm sorry, Laura, if you watch this after the fact. I'm not pausing it to make fun of you in any way, shape, or form. I'm pausing it to show you that she read the thing. She's coming up with her thoughts, and she was like, oh, this is bad. This is bad.
Email. I think what he was trying to do is show the team that he had heard their feedback and that they would now be reacting to that feedback and doing
eyebrows go up. Yep, this is bad. This is bad.
The right thing, focusing on their customers. But that means that up until this point, they haven't been doing that. And that begs the question of, well, what were you focused on? The whole point in making a game is to satisfy the people who want to pay for it.
Imagine that. Imagine making a game. And again, we say this all the time. I've been saying this. If you guys watch me for years, make a game, sell a game. And the make the game part is all of this other stuff that people talk about. Satisfy the player, good quality product, okay? All of this stuff is in that make a game, okay? And then once you make that game with love, passion, and everything that you want to put in that game, then you sell that game. But that's not what they do. They don't make a game. They're making a half-ass minimal viable product with microtransactions or whatever else they want to put in the game. They don't stand behind it. They fix it over the next 12 to 18 months. Fix it with a battle pass, fix it with a patch, fix it whatever.
So that then you can make another game.
Let me rewind what you just said there. Your goal as a game designer is to make a game, sell a game, so you can make money, so you can make your next game.
That begs the question of, well, what were you focused on? The whole point in making a game is to satisfy the people who want to pay for it, so that then you can make another game. To make it work.
It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. You find an audience, or you already know your audience, okay? If it's a brand new IP, you need to find your audience. And the way you find your audience is, okay, let's pick the genre of game. How many people like multiplayer games? How many people like real-time strategy games? How many people like action-adventure games? Great, check. That's set. Then you have to find, what's the age bracket? RTSs. This is how many people we can get in the RTS realm. This is how many people we get in the action realm. This is how many people we get in the free-to-play realm, right? They know all of this stuff.
First, he has known that this is a problem for a while and hasn't actually fixed it. Where is the sense of urgency? He knew his games weren't finding an audience.
There's no urgency. There's no urgency because if I put something out, it's just going to sell. You're just going to buy it. But if you don't buy it, guess what? You're the problem. You're sexist, racist, misogynistic, okay? Instead of just making a game and selling a game.
Audience, he knows his team has been longing for this change, so why didn't he do something? If you can't change the company as the CEO, that's a real problem.
I missed what she said there.
Finding an audience, he knows his team has been longing for this change, so why didn't he do something?
Money.
If you can't change the company as the CEO, that's a real problem.
You could go for short-term success. You could put something out, like a battle royale for Battlefield. You could put season pass in there. You could put microtransactions in there. You can put cosmetics and stuff in there, and you'll make money right off the bat. Oh, man, we're making good money. You see this? We're making all this money, but you've completely destroyed the brand. So you might make money up front, but in the long run, you've completely destroyed your company. You completely destroyed the brand of the IP that you're using.
Because that's the can't change that has been longing for this change, so why didn't he do something? If you can't change the company as the CEO, that's a real problem.
He's the CEO and he can't make the change. Everyone abandoned ship. The captain is not controlling the ship.
Because that's the CEO's job. Apparently, right after Eve's letter, Maria Sophia sent out her own letter to the team. I didn't know who she was, so I looked it up, and what I learned is that she was made the
You know, these pictures of people when they work for something is to get you visually. You see somebody and you're like, oh, she looks nice. She's probably a mom, a sister, right? A daughter of somebody. Maria, look at her. She looks really nice. She probably knows what she's doing, right?
SVP of Operations in 2022. I then took a look at her long list of game credits in Moby, which shows.
All right, let's see what she's been doing. 44 credits on 38 games, okay? Human Resources in 2017, Just Dance. She was in Human Resources. Then from Human Resources, Mario Rabbids Kingdom, she went from Human Resources to SVP of Studio Operations for The Crew, Assassin's Creed, Avatar, Prince of Persia, Skull and Bones, The Rogue Prince, Star Wars Outlaws. That's as administration, okay? As production, she did Rocksmith Plus in 2022, X Defiant 2024. Man, her resume looks absolutely horrendous. All of these things right here are financial failures, basically. Everything here, financial failures. Watchdog Legion, she was the managing director, okay? Just Dance, managing director. 2, director. Mario Rabbids, Spark of Hope, managing director. Just Dance, SVP Studio Operations. Far Cry 6, Studio Operations. Skull and Bones, managing director.
She was primarily involved as an HR person prior to this promotion. I think her
she went from HR to SVP.
Letter was meant to reassure the rest of the company, but I don't think it did. I've seen these types of letters before.
You're telling me there was no one else qualified? Nobody else qualified to take that position in the world. In the world. You took someone from Human Resources, okay?
When you're going into a reorg or they're going to do a major layoff, and it's always filled with a lot of inspiring words that don't really mean anything, and then some concerning sentences. They try to spin the idea with a bunch of corporate words that
That's why I like Laura. I would love to interview Laura to get like her insights, right? And I could tell her stories from the film industry side, and she could tell me stories from the video game side. I would love to have a conversation with her. Okay. First and foremost, I want to emphasize that the agreement we have and announced is a powerful enabler and existing opportunities for Ubisoft. It will help accelerate an evolution and improve how we make games with greater focus and agility. Blah 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 blah. You blew it.
Sound good, like agility, enabler, exciting opportunity, accelerate our evolution. When in reality, it's a much different situation. With a reorganization, it usually has nothing to do with fixing the org. It's people at the top fighting and murking each other. You see, if you have a given structure and you have someone in a spot that you want them out of, it's really difficult to just move them, particularly if they're good at their job.
Here's the reason it's difficult to move them. Because let's say I'm the top, right? And let's say Paul and Sarge are underneath me. Now, I'm not doing my job correct. Now they got to remove me. Well, they got to bring in somebody else, right? Well, now let's say they bring in Travis. Travis, who wasn't in, right? Paul and Sarge, who are underneath me, they bring Travis in. And now Travis is now the head of that section. Paul and Sarge are going to get pissed and be like, why didn't you give me the promotion? I've been here, blah, blah, blah. So now these two people that were working underneath me don't respect the next person that comes in because they didn't hire within. They gave a job to a person that works in human resources. You see what I'm saying?
So instead of doing the hard thing and proving the person isn't qualified or that they need to move, the leader just announces a reorg, and when the music stops, you find yourself without a chair. I had a boss once who wanted to move me out of a job that I was good at and that I loved. He started by trying to sell me on moving. He kept telling me I was increasing my scope, despite the fact that it was a much smaller role and had less direct report.
We really like you and we would like you to move. Now we're going to try to emphasize you to move. And she's like, no, I don't want to move.
The new role also meant I would no longer be on the executive leadership team. It was clearly a terrible move for me. And I kept wondering to myself if he was stupid or if he thought I was that stupid.
No, Laura, he is stupid and he thought you were that stupid.
So this part of Maria Sophia's letter sounded very familiar to me. I also want to be clear, if you're not currently working on these brands, it doesn't mean your work matters any less.
Yes, it does. It 100% does. Her saying that in a letter and making you feel good about yourself, right? You're working, you're an employee, and now you read this in an internal email. I also want to be clear, not to be an asshole, which means you're going to be an asshole, not to be rude, but you want to be rude, okay? I also want to be clear, okay? If you're not currently working on these brands, it doesn't mean your work matters any less, but it does. It does.
This agreement will benefit all of Ubisoft, giving us the means to spark more innovation and creativity across the board. This marks the beginning of a new chapter, and you play
a new chapter. Your work doesn't mean less. Yes, it does. And this is just telling you it's a new chapter, meaning you're gone.
A vital role in shaping it. The truth is that Tencent has invested in many game companies, and they picked what they wanted to invest in. It wasn't random. If you're working on another brand, it isn't as valuable, or Tencent would have picked it. Now, maybe there is some plan to save some of the other brands or to spin out studios.
I think there will be a fire sale going on with the other IPs that they're not really big interested in. The 3 that they're getting, they're saving. Ubisoft will sell off the other IPs that they're not making money to see if someone else wants to do something with them.
Who knows? But it's also very likely that these
Ubisoft employees reportedly worried about another round of layoffs. There's already been layoffs.
People will be losing their jobs. I say this because of this next part of her letter. In the coming weeks and months, we will work hard to build the best organization possible for you.
This is what I'm talking about, and I've said this in the past to you guys that listen to me, okay? Doesn't matter what job you're in. I don't care if you're working the fryer layer, okay? If you're working in real estate, if you're working in construction, okay? Always do the best that you can do, regardless if you hate your job and you don't really give a shit, okay? Make sure that you're doing better than the person that you work with. Because there will be a time that comes that you want to get a promotion or firing will happen and they will get rid of the dead weight. If you don't give a shit, then by all means, just coast by whatever you do. But personally, I put my blood, sweat, and tears in no matter what it is. I don't care if I'm digging a hole in the yard, okay, or if I'm working a fryer later at Wendy's, okay? Make sure you're the best at what you do and that no one else is better than you, because when the time comes, you will lose your job if you're just slacking around, okay? But then you become overqualified for some positions, and they'll get rid of you because the guy above you wants you gone so he can get more money than you.
For Ubisoft, for our teams, and for our players. At a minimum, they're going to reorganize the company, but likely there will be layoffs.
Everyone's going to get fired. Everyone's getting fired. They might do it in one lump sum. They might do it in small little bits and pieces, but there's a new owner, and they want to make sure they have the best people working for the littlest price as possible.
Companies like to lay off entire teams because it's a lot easier for them to say, look, I'm sorry, your project's canceled.
Start from scratch. You got to rip out the root, plant a new seed, and then work it out from there. Because if I leave a couple people in there, right, then you have people like, well, I'm still around, I'm better than you, blah, blah, blah. You got to wipe it out. Clean it.
And we're letting you go. That is an easier thing for an executive to do than to go to people personally and tell them that they individually aren't performing well. It's an easier thing to do legally, and it's easier to do emotionally. So that is what I think is going to be happening to the teams. But what about the leadership?
Before she says it, I'm going to take a guess. The leadership's going to stay exactly where it is, because they're the manager. Here's the problem. If you get rid of all the people below, okay, and you bring in new people, they don't know that they're shitty managers. They got a brand new crew to be shitty too. They don't know their quirks and whatnot. So these people stay exactly where they are because as the new owner, you think the managers know what they're doing, and everybody else was the problem. So they stay exactly where they are.
It's going to be very interesting to see who on the leadership team stays with the new subsidiary. If I were Tencent, I would be asking some hard questions, like why leadership didn't go for the easy layup with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Why did they make the game about Yasake instead of a Japanese samurai? Did the executives not understand that
Yes, they didn't understand. Yes, they were pushing something.
going with this storyline would be a big risk? Or did they think that it was okay to take that risk with a big budget franchise that needs to make?
The answer is yes. They were okay taking the big risk because the brand, the IP, Assassin's Creed, it doesn't matter what you put out, it's going to sell a certain amount, right? So it's almost like being on autopilot. They're just like, Assassin, that's it, okay? They're taking the brand. I said this earlier before you even started watching this video, right? They take the easy thing. Nintendo knows that you're going to buy Mario Kart. They don't have to put in, okay? Another brand knows that you're going to buy this brand because the brand is known, okay? The brand is known. So this brand, Star Wars, Disney did it with Star Wars. Disney does it with Marvel. They're like, oh, we're just going to put another Marvel film out. People like Marvel. Oh, we have the Snow White. We're going to put Snow White out there. People love Snow White. That's what started Disney. Oh, we're going to put... That's exactly what they did. AC is going to hit a certain point. But then when it fails, you know what they do.
Make a lot of sales.
Hold on, I'm gonna back up.
Would be a big risk? Or did they think that it was okay to take that risk with a big budget franchise that needs to make a lot of sales? Why did it take the Prime Minister...
Another reason there's microtransactions in a single-player game, by the way, to mitigate the risks.
of Japan weighing in before they noticed that it was a bad idea to allow players to break tables and racks in shrines. I credit them that they fixed it very quickly, but it could have been easily avoided, and it was very embarrassing for the company. Regarding the characters, they could have tested a few to see what gamers thought. The fans of Assassin's Creed are passionate and engaged. They would have been happy to give feedback. You can test characters on paper before you ever do any art or code. It's very cheap, and it's an easy way to get signal on whether or not you're headed in the right direction. This is why I'm concerned about the new subsidiary. Okay, you had a leadership team that wasn't focused on making games for players.
Making games. Yeah, making games.
And didn't understand how to manage risk around a story and a cult.
This has got to be very frustrating for her, for someone that's being in the industry. And because I know when I watch a movie or know the stuff that happens behind the movie, but in the industry, I get so frustrated. Because I look at it as a video game, right? If I talked about this in the past, where if you're making an action adventure game, right? Baldur's Gate 3, right? That's the standard now for that. Okay, if someone wants to make the next Baldur's Gate 3, they have to at least hit this bar, okay? And then exceed that just a little bit. They don't have to jump over it, but they just got to exceed just a little bit to make it to motivate it moving forward, to evolve, okay? That's the problem. Sorry, Laura, I didn't mean to put you on that.
Hurry. Okay, you had a leadership team that wasn't focused on making games for players and didn't understand how to manage risk around a story and a culture. So how is it going to be different in the new organization?
It's not. If the management's there and you have all new people, everything's going to be the exact same because the managers don't know what they're doing.
How is Tencent going to make sure that they have the right leadership in place that won't make these same mistakes? Doing a deep dive on what happened and figuring out who made these poor decisions is going to be a crucial part of ensuring success in the new company. I feel sorry for the game developers at Ubisoft. It sounds like a lot of them just wanted to make games that their players wanted. They knew that, they told leadership, and leadership didn't fix it. Instead, it appears they focused on carving out some value for themselves and abandoning ship.
That's exactly right. They carved out, moved it over to save those franchises. Otherwise, they were going to be completely gone, right? They had to... Okay, they had to go look at who was going to be interested. And Tencent was there. They're like, oh, we'll give you $1.4 billion for these three. We don't want the rest. Cut that fat off. We don't need this. This is what we think is valuable over here. Okay. Kylo says, who's this bitch yapping? Who's this bitch? This is Laura Fryer. She's been in the game industry for like 25 years.
And now a whole bunch of people at these other studios are going to be left looking for work. It's going to impact them, and it's going to impact their families. It's a sad situation, and it will take a while to resolve, but I do think there is some hope. Clearly, the game developers want to get back to making games players want, so maybe things will turn around for the new slimmed-down studio. Maybe with Tencent on board, there will be some accountability at the leadership level, and they will bring in better people. They will enable the teams to make better games. It's possible that this change will turn things around, and I, for one, will be rooting for them.
Unfortunately, it's not going to turn it around. And if it does turn it around, it's going to take so long to make it, because in the entertainment industry, unfortunately, it's what have you done for me lately? It doesn't matter if you're a musician, an art, film, television, or video game, okay? It doesn't matter if you came out and made the greatest game ever known to man, okay? Because when that's done and you move on to your next project, you got a bunch of goodwill, but if that next game doesn't put that same type of effort in, then you're done, okay? You're done, because if it doesn't bring in the money, you're done. It doesn't matter if it was great. It doesn't matter if it was fantastic. Look at Tango Gameworks. Look at Hi-Fi Rush. People love the game, but it didn't sell. So now they can come out with something else, and it wouldn't matter because it didn't make money for that company, okay? And that's why companies get dismantled or cut off, because what have you done for me lately? You could make Fallout New Vegas, okay, and be the greatest the best Fallout ever. But then what was your next game? Wasn't that. Didn't bring in enough money for that, right? That's the way the industry looks at it. It doesn't matter if you and me go, I thought that was a great game, okay? If it doesn't sell and make money, then it's just garbage, okay? It doesn't matter if I worked on the greatest movie of all time and won an Academy Award, okay? The next job, nobody gives a shit. They're like, what did you do? Oh, okay, cool. We know you're good. Now show it to us.
If you're interested in working on projects that don't compromise quality and go all in on making a memorable experience, I think Ubisoft is exactly that.
Let me rewind that for a second.
If you're interested in working on projects that don't compromise quality and go all in on making a memorable experience, I think Ubisoft is exactly that.
That's terrible. I mean, obviously, him saying that's off a script and someone told him to say that. But yeah, that's not true. All right. That's Laura Fryer's video. Make sure you go give it a like. In the description down below, you can click on that link.